Hello, and welcome back to Shelf Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of female founders bringing their product-based businesses to retail shelves. I'm your host, Roberta, and today's episode is all about beauty, confidence, and self-care. I'm excited to have with us Brittany Lo, the founder and CEO of Beia, a brand that's redefined beauty and self-care with innovative skincare-infused and wellness products. She's created a curated line of products on the shelves of some well-known retailers, and I'm excited to hear how she got there. Welcome, Brittany.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited as well, and can't wait to hear your story of your brand and how you're managing all of the brands that you have.
Oh, you're so sweet. Oh, a
So
little crazy.
you seem to be managing it well, though.
Thank
So
you.
can we start off with what was your life like before starting Beia?
So when I was graduating college in 2014, I was supposed to be corporate, big beauty conglomerate, L'Oreal. And instead of going there, that's when I decided to start my own business, which was a beauty service concierge called Beautini technically I launched in March of 2015. So from that point on until I launched Beia and even today, I was doing Beautini. So I never really had a true corporate job. I started one business and that led me into starting Beia.
So what was the passion that came from starting Beia? Where did that come from?
So since second grade, I wrote in my journal that I wanted to have a beauty company one day. And for years, I ended up starting Lowe Cosmetics as a sophomore in high school with a
Oh,
little
wow.
funding from my grandma. And I never had a business course offered at my school, but I love this idea of building and creating something. And Lowe Cosmetics was not this true success that I hoped for, but I did know that my future, my path career wise was going to be product. So when I was leaving Babs in college, I was graduating, I wasn't sure where the white space was from a product perspective. And so my conclusion was if I don't know where the white space is in a very saturated market, when I have limited experience and very limited funds, what's the next best thing? And to me, that's when Drybar and the glam squads were popping up. And I figured if I don't know where the white space is, well, why don't I work with women directly and figure out where their pain points are and talk to them and figure out where the white space is. So that's what we did is working with women through doing hair and makeup for weddings and special events and a team of up to 80 stylists. And what we found was women would come in before a big occasion. And yes, they would ask about, the lipstick color that we're using on them, but they'd also be like, oh, I sweat easily. Is this going to hold? Or, when I sweat, I tend to smell. What do you recommend? Because my deodorant isn't cutting it. Or I have these blemishes on my breast. I have a low cut dress. What's your solution? And it was technically beauty questions, but they were all asked with a sense of insecurity or shame. And I, in my personal life, was dating in my 20s at that time. And, I'd leave work to go to a networking event. And sometimes I would really smell. And those nights where I was that self-conscious about my odor were the nights where I was so focused about if the person I was talking to could smell me that I forgot to be present in those moments. And
Yeah.
so between my personal experiences and our clients' experiences, that's what led me to start Beia. And Beia is essentially lifestyle skincare that keeps you clean and confident throughout the day. Because reality is for women on the go or people on the go, there's these moments where maybe you're traveling on an airplane and you have to land and run right to a meeting. You don't have time to shower. You don't have time to do this whole thing. Even if you're not flying somewhere and have tight time restraints, maybe you just want a quick refresh. And that's where some of our products can help you in those in between moments.
Yeah, I love that. So did you always still have the goal of starting some sort of like beauty brand, although you started with the clients and understanding pain points?
Yeah, so that's the baby step. I was like, you know what? Let me learn because if I just pour money into product, it will never go anywhere. But it was wild because I waited so long, like 7 years of just researching and of course I love the service business too, but the end goal has always been product. So when I finally was able to launch Beia and now finally being able to grow it, that has been the true joy that I've waited so long to do.
Yeah, I love too that you were pretty open-minded in what avenue you wanted to go in. So it was just being open to hearing the feedback and not having a path to say, I want to do, blush and lipstick first or whatever that represented, and really just understanding what is the market looking for and not being pigeonholed into one thing.
Well, I learned very quickly in high school. I probably ordered like 1,000 mascaras for Belo Cosmetics, and 20 years later, there's probably 998 still in my parents' attic. So I knew it was hard.
So once you were able to identify kind of what lane you wanted to go in, what did next steps look like in starting to build this brand?
So I knew very quick early on, I got advice from an advisor, and she said a lot of brands will put their effort into launching 6 SKUs or 5 different products. She's like, you should be putting every ounce of your energy to creating a hero product because you don't even know who your true customer is until you launch. So start with one product. So when we were starting Beia, I went to our clients from Butini, and they're mostly brides. And I was like, tell me about your pain points. What are you looking for? What's going on? And a big concern was sweat, but also in a point where they're wearing makeup and stuff on their wedding day, but on a daily basis, they're not wearing a full face of makeup. So they really wanted this like hybrid product that could make them look glowy and beautiful for wedding day, but also like be good for your skin. And so that's when we launched our daily hydrating setting mist, because you can use it just to like hydrate your skin, but you can also apply it with your makeup to give like a really nice glow that locks in your makeup. So we started there, and then we seeded the market at that point to then just see like, is this the direction we want to go into? Are we really targeting this type of demographic? Like, what does the market think about this product? And then figure out what to do next.
So with that setting mist, how did you even initially find a manufacturer to support creating something like that?
Great questions. We have this idea, we know what we want to make, and then you go on Google and you try to find a manufacturer, and basically nothing comes up. And if you find a website, they're super archaic. So we end up just calling any phone number we could find. And with manufacturers, you really have to pitch yourself. Like they have to be confident in taking a chance on you, because unless you're doing, hundreds of thousands of units, it's really not worth their investment. So luckily, my intern at the time, her family friend, was the CFO of a manufacturing plant. Well, technically, they're a packaging company that had a sister plant that was a lab, and that's how we got into manufacture. And I will say that intern's now full time with me. I was like,
Of
you
course she
deserve
is.
to be here. Exactly.
Using all networks to figure it out, right?
Oh, yeah. Being resourceful. Entrepreneurship 101.
So with that, once you did find a manufacturer, how long did it take for you to actually get the final product that you loved? I mean, the first round, was it something that you felt was ready to go to market, or did it take some time?
No, it definitely took time. The first step, if you want to create a product, is a lot of times you might think your idea has never been done before, and maybe it hasn't. But what I learned from L'Oreal was you always need a benchmark, right? What's in the market that's somewhat similar to what you're looking for, to give everyone, whether it's your packaging or your manufacturer, some kind of baseline on what kind of formula you're looking to create. And then you can say, I liked this idea of this product, but I want ours thicker. I want ours with these ingredients. It can be totally different, but I think just figuring out like what's the closest benchmark currently in the market,
Yeah.
and then having clarity on like what you want to change, what you don't. We have a chemist, which for our first product, we really worked with the lab and their team. And it definitely took a lot of iterations. So it took a little over a year to make. So it was a long lead time. And then moving from there, now we have a chemist where we'll work with him on the formulations and like listen to his guidance on ingredients and what he thinks to be able to understand the formula, to then transfer to a manufacturer to start testing it and finding the right packaging and bringing it to life.
Did you utilize, since the packaging company had the sister with the manufacturing, did you use the packaging company to help with create the product package?
Yes. Yeah. So that's the interesting part, is that we technically did a turnkey operation for our first product. And what that means is that you have like one point of contact, and they behind the scenes will source your packaging. They'll help you with your formula. Like they will help you bring it to market. And I was advised to do it that way. Not that we had an option, because it was the only manufacturer that would take us, But I was told when you don't know what you're doing, do that because then you have someone guiding you through the process. And I think that the woman that helped me, we still work with all the time now. And she is an angel and I learned so much from her. But on the flip side, there's a lack of transparency. So you don't know exactly which lab you're working with, or you're not able to talk to like the formulation team directly or the packaging. You're like, is how much is this pricing being padded? Like you don't really know the ins and outs, and you're not talking to every vendor specifically, which as a founder and you're putting all this money in, like I wanted a little bit more control of it.
Yeah.
So finally at the end, when it came to our carton packaging, she's like, I know how involved you want to be. Here's our contact. You just run with it and we'll stay over here. And so moving forward with our other products, we do manage the whole process and we work, one on one with our vendors. But in the beginning, it was a good way to just understand the overall process.
Yeah, that's great too, because I know that we've heard from other founders that say you're talking to seven different people all at once, the packaging over
Yes.
here. So it's great to hear that there is opportunity to kind of look and source for one contact that you can really build that relationship and really understand the costs even that come under the covers.
Yes, I think there's pros and cons. It's just a matter of like what's the level of involvement that you want to be in, like what's
Yeah.
your appetite to really project manage. And from there, you have different directions you can go in.
Yeah. So as you were kind of working to identify and kind of have the final version of your product, what did it look like? Were you doing anything else in order to gear up and get ready for launch?
So as we were working on the formulation, then we were also starting to source the packaging because they kind of go hand in hand. Like a lot of times, as soon as we start formulating with our chemists, we're reaching out and sourcing packaging options because based on orifice and how the packaging, pumps or spritzes, like it might impact your formula. So that's one piece. Secondly, we were working with our graphic designer that we found to build our logo and the branding. And we're also like, as this is happening, we're having real friends or potential customers try out the mist every iteration. And at that same time, we're also like asking them about like different options for the packaging and branding and building the website. So it all has to happen like collectively because it does take about a year to, if not more. Some of our products have taken a year and a half, 2 years to bring to market. If you wait to have the product and then figure out the launch party, like the photo shoot, all this stuff, like
Yeah.
you're never going to launch. It was a lot like first figuring out what's our brand, what's the logo, what people are looking for. You need to work on, designing the outer cartons and what that looks like, regulatory place. You also need to get testing done on the formulas. So it's a lot. It definitely is a lot of pieces that are happening at the same time.
Yeah. So what were people, as you were saying, you were getting people, your friends to try it and potential future customers, what were the first reactions? What were they saying?
So the mist, I think for the first round, I knew right away it was not the right formula. But when we were starting, this was like 2020, so people were not out and about. So it was a lot of my siblings, my mom, my sister. I'm like, try this one again, and what about this one? So it was a lot more like friends trying it out than like true customers or people that we could just spritz on the street. But it was fun because at first, like, oh, this feels good. But I also would order all these other products that were on the market, put them in, weird packaging. And so then I'd be like, do you like A, B, C, or D? And just keep just trying and trying and trying and understand what they do like about some products, what they don't like about some products. So then it could inform me on how we want to make our formula better.
Yeah. And so were most of them choosing yours?
In the beginning, well, so I think at that point, by the time we ended with our formulation, yes. And it honestly surprised me. Like, it really gives like a beautiful glow and you could really see the difference, which is fascinating because it's colorless. So to be able to really see a difference using the product, that's when I knew we are ready to move forward because I have very sensitive skin. My sister has very sensitive skin. So like if we can use this and it feels good, it's a high quality product that works and it's gentle enough to be used on us, that's a win. And then if you're also not only just liking it, but you're choosing it over these very well known competitors
Yeah.
where you haven't seen the packaging, you have no idea what they are, but you're still choosing ours and you also don't know which one is ours, that was a good indicator that we were ready to move forward.
Yeah. I think that's such a great point too, to kind of line up competitive products to see with, your friends or whoever can kind of judge in what, which they like the best. And to your point, like, why do they like one versus the other? And then start to ensure that your product kind of leads from the pack.
Yeah, just not this past weekend, but the weekend before, we did a pop up at SoulCycle, and I was talking to some people about some new product ideas or just asking them a bunch of questions. And some people gave me like product recommendations that I love. So I ordered it while I was there, and I have them all in my bathroom. I'm testing, I'm trying. Because the reality as a founder, it is your vision. You can always absorb and learn from your customer base, but you also have to understand what is your POV. So the more you can experience and test things out in the market and be like, oh, I don't know what it is about this specific product, but I really love how this sits. I really love this packaging. I really love the branding here. I love how this feels. I love how it feels after the shower, before the shower, when I wake up, whatever it might be. Like the more you can be an educated customer, it will help give clarity to your different partners and people that you're working with, because you've listened to everyone that you want, but the vision has to come from you.
Yeah, I love that. Have a vision, but be open to hearing others and what their point of views are.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So once you finally, got your products, you were ready to go to market, you've kind of built up marketing, website, all of that. What did initial launch look like?
So when we seeded the market, so we technically launched like July 2022, but we did seed the market with one product just to see like what direction are we bringing this brand in, but like let's just get out there. We end up throwing this big launch party because since I'm in the event space, I have some incredible vendor partners and friends that, work at different venues, have amazing catering companies, are wonderful, talented photographers. So we put together this like 6-figure launch party. And at that time, remember, people are just starting to now, like
Get out.
summer of 2021, people are looking to be out, get together. It was all outside, but it was just like a beautiful, fun summer day. And that's how we launched, because I figured bringing people together is one of my superpowers, and like networking is like it really aligns with my superpowers. So like, why wouldn't I bring together people I love, people that I've met from Beautini, my personal life, and just like get people together to talk about this brand. So whether they're supporting us or they're inviting a friend who now wants to learn more about Beia, it was a really cool way to celebrate but really build the brand awareness right from the get-go.
Yeah. Did you also launch on your website at the same time?
Yeah, so the same day that we'd had the launch party was the day that we like truly launched. And so we had the editors at the party for like a cocktail hour before anyone else, so they could like learn a little bit more about the products and have some drinks and food. And then the party was opened up to like everyone a little bit later. So it really felt like it was the true launch day because that was the first day you could start buying it.
Yeah, yeah. With editors, what was your strategy behind that? And how did you get those editors to actually attend?
When I was developing Thea, one of the things that I decided to invest in was a publicist. And so when you think about PR, a lot of times you think about like these big agencies or these super high retainers. That I'm someone who's like pretty scrappy. So instead of hiring an agency for marketing or email marketing, it's like, how do you go find someone who's maybe come from one of those agencies, but that now they work, as a freelancer, and you get this amazing relationship and experience from someone without paying these agency rates. So I was very lucky. One of my clients for Beautini was in beauty PR, and she always said, when you launch, you let me know and I'll help you out. And then she ended up getting a bunch of different clients during the pandemic, and she's like, I don't have the bandwidth anymore to take your brand, but I have my friend who just left this great agency. She's starting her own. Let me introduce you. And I've been with her ever since. And so going back to the editors and influencers, I really leaned on her to help reach out to her editor network and invite them to our party to be able to really kick it off.
So would you recommend kind of leading with editors when you're launching something like a beauty brand?
Yes, because I was just at an editor lunch yesterday. Not only can they give you really insightful feedback, like, hey, have you thought about positioning this product this way? Or do you ever talk about the ingredients? I think they're really, really cool. Like, tell me more. And I think the whole idea of having a brand is you want people to storytell. You need people to share your story. And when you launch, you're probably not going to have influencers and people dying to post about you and use you right away, but because they need to make sure your brand's credible. And the credibility really comes from editors including you in their articles or their roundups and just speaking about your brand. And so I think it's so important to work with experts and editors from the start if you can, just so they can understand your brand and fall in love with it right from the start.
Yeah, no, I love that. So then once you started selling and actually, getting those sales, what was initial feedback? Was it the same feedback that you were receiving from family and friends?
So luckily, that's the funny part because when I had this great idea for Belo Cosmetics, launch the mascara, and of course, like my aunt, my grandma bought it, but no one else, right? And
Right.
so one of my biggest fears, probably PTSD with launching Beia, was like, I know my grandma's gonna buy it, I know my aunt's gonna buy it, but is anyone else gonna buy it? And so luckily, people did, and it was so cool to be like, wait, I love this because you work so hard and you think it's so different, but there's 1,000 different products that look just like yours already
Yeah.
on the market. So are people really going to care? And they did. And that like, I think it is a reflection on how hard we work on our formulas. Like we spend so much time, we do so many iterations until I feel like they're perfect and they're really solving a problem for our customers. But to get that initial response is amazing.
Yeah. It felt good.
Exactly.
You mentioned like your superpower is bringing people together. And I noticed that you do a lot of collaborations, you do a lot of events. Kind of how did that come to fruition? And was that a part of your initial strategy or is that something that you kind of added later on?
So last year we did a lot of gifting and, you have to have guardrails. You can't just, we get a lot of people who reach out for the bachelorettes or just, different events that they just want free products. And that's one thing. But there's also a lot of great events where our guardrails are like, okay, is there like an influential people or influencers at the event? Can we have an in-person presence here? And like, is this a group of people that align with our customer base, right? We've definitely, especially last year, gifted a lot of different like activations. We don't have budget to necessarily pay to be like a sponsor, but we will donate our products and gift our products at events. And what we've noticed is that now with consumers wanting so many different touch points, we are getting so many people be like, I saw your brand. Like my friend has it and I saw you here. And like, oh my gosh, I actually got your body scrub in this gift bag and I'm obsessed. I just reordered it on Amazon. And it's cool to see like you have to create yourself a little bit of a web and it's expensive. Like that's why we don't pay for partnerships because I'm already spending so much on the amount that these products have cost to produce.
Yeah.
And so, but when you think about it, it's like you have to do that, in my opinion, to build the brand awareness. And also, it's like a sampling. Once people can try your products, they should speak for themselves.
Yeah, I like that too because you know how they say like people need to see things multiple times, right, before they really want to, engage and maybe try and support. So
Yes. And
that's smart.
I feel like the number of touch points is only going up. So the more that you can give them touch points and then they
Yeah.
try and then they convert, like that's a win.
Yeah. So you mentioned how, you're in a category that there's other players that's, are very similar. How do you create the story? Like, what is the story of Bea that allows the consumer to engage, to feel connected? And how did you think about creating that?
I think that the more authentic you can be and like think through your personal experience and just share, that's going to resonate with a lot of customers versus trying to like draft this really fancy story that people maybe don't really believe, especially in today's day. Customers and consumers are so well educated. So if you pretend, you went to this amazing country and you're inspired by this product, people will see through it. And so
Yeah.
when we started Bea, we weren't sure, like I still wasn't fully sure on like the bigger picture direction. We started making the mist. And then I was like, I really like this whole like odors, sweat. It was almost like these intimate concerns or insecurities. There's something there. And I was like, maybe it's actually in intimate care and sexual wellness because you're actually, you're most exposed in the bedroom. So when you care about how you smell or the body blemishes the most. And so like it always stemmed from figuring out the idea through my clients from Butini and my own personal pain points. And that's what we started with. Then it kind of evolved into, ooh, this sexual wellness category kind of feels like it makes sense with our mission and our direction. So then we, launched and we had a great run, but I realized, you know what, we're so much bigger than just intimate care. Like it's not about being intimate with our product. It's more about those insecurities of sweat and odors that can happen in the bedroom. They can also happen when you're traveling or just throughout your day.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's bigger than what we're talking about. So even right now, we're in the process of re-messaging to really embody the true customers that we have. I think that just being willing to adapt and evolve is the number one key. Is that you're going to initially, before you launch, you have an idea of who you think your customer is going to be and an idea for your business. But then once you launch, you learn so much. You realize like what's resonating with people, what's resonating with yourself, what's not resonating. And then you keep tweaking and evolving and changing until you get it right. Like, I don't think you should be so like, oh, I need it perfect before I launch, because 99% of the time you're going to change it and evolve it anyways.
Yeah. You kind of need to put it out there in the market to really understand what it's going to evolve to and what it really should be.
Yes.
So with that, so you launch your first product, you find some success in that. How long until you launched the next product, and how did you know that you were ready to do that?
Good question. We seeded the market June 2021 with our mist. Once we tried that out, that's when we were already still looking at like, what direction are we bringing this brand? Is it skincare? Is it intimate care? Like, what is this going to be? But let's just see the market. June 2022 is like when we officially launched with a direction of like, okay, this is the brand that we're launching. And that's when we also launched, I believe, our second product, which are the refresh wipes, which are our hero products. So when I was developing the mist, the idea was like, oh, it'll be a hero product. And we have such a loyal following with our mist. But when we think about, addressing those insecurities and keeping you clean and confident throughout the day, and this idea of lifestyle skincare, the wipes are really what embody that. And so that was a year later, basically, June 2022, when we launched those products. And that's when it felt like a true brand husband.
Yeah. And at that same time, I guess to back it up, did you always have a vision for the brand to go into retail stores?
Yeah. So when we launched, I was trying to think about how to get out there. And I knew the editors was one piece, and that's what I did for Beautini. But aside from that, how do you get to customers? And with Beautini, I was trying to target brides. It's not like you can go on the street and point out brides, right? You would have to look very closely to see if they're wearing two bands or not. And so I was like, where can I find brides? And there were, at that point, like a few different wedding expos in 2015 that attracted a bunch of couples. And so I started doing these trade shows, and that's when I learned more about our pricing structure, what people wanted, and developed and grew Beautini. And now we don't do expo, like we're priced out of expos probably at this point, but applying what worked for one company, I applied to Beia. So I ended up signing up for Cosmoprof, which is a big beauty expo. It's in Vegas in July. We basically launched officially. And a month later, we had this expo. And the cool part about these trade shows is, yes, you might meet some customers, but it's really more industry. So my thought was, well, let's do a trade show. It's not brides that we're trying to get. Who are we trying to get? Retailers. We want buyers there. And it's a great way for them to discover you. So we got a little booth, and then we ended up meeting the team from Neiman Marcus, and they tried our products. I pitched them. And then the next day, they're like, we're obsessed with your serum. We put on our arms last night, and I can't believe the difference. Let's talk more. And that's honestly how we got our first account, which was Neiman Marcus. And at that point, they were launching, sexual wellness, and they wanted us to be like a launch partner because we're, very elevated, but we were in this very cool category. And that's ultimately how we end up meeting Urban Outfitters and Free People. So it was a really good way to meet buyers.
Did you meet all three of them at that one event?
But it's funny because when you think about, did we think the trade show was successful? It takes time. If someone is looking to do trade show, like Neiman Marcus was pretty immediate. We had that meeting, and then maybe like a few weeks later, I met with the main buyer on like how to launch in store. We officially launched the following February. The other two, we talked to, we didn't hear from, and then they reached out maybe 6 months later, if that. So it's good just to get in front of people, even if you just have conversations and nothing comes out of it. It's just good to get on the radar of like, what is this brand? Let me keep an eye out. You also have like the Ultas and Sephora's there, just secretly checking people out. You have industry people who are trying to get a pulse on like the up and coming brand. So it's just a good way to like share your story and practice over and over again for 3 days straight, your one liner and like talking about your business.
Yeah. What was your one-liner? What do you think kind of drew them in?
I can't remember. Gosh, what I don't know if I even had a one liner. I was like, Beia addresses intimate concerns like sweat, odor, body blemishes that affect our confidence in the bedroom and beyond. That was what it was. And so they're like, oh, this is interesting. And when you look at the packaging and you try it out, you're like, oh, this is a very high quality formula. It's like packaging's really pretty. This
Yeah.
is a premium brand. And like at that point, like sexual wellness was so on fire. So we're like, oh, this is really cool to be able to like launch with a retailer like Neiman Marcus
Yeah, definitely.
with this like almost taboo category in the most luxurious retailer there is. So it is truly like such a neat way to like kick off and build credibility and elevate the brand from the start.
Yeah. With that said, were there any changes that you had to make with the product and launching into Neiman's? Was retail, where they were looking for it? Was packaging, in line?
So the packaging, the products, the formulas, everything was in line. So that was really good. But what is interesting with retailers is you generally need the back end systems. Like you'll have to get your EDI, like you have to, there's a lot of setup that happens. So even if you have your products ready to go, you have the brand ready to go, there's just a lot of technical pieces on the back end to
Yeah.
make sure that your inventory, like you're all set up as a vendor. So that was what took the most amount of time. And then figuring out like what is your, launch strategy within that retailer as well.
Yeah. What about manufacturing? How did you ensure that your manufacturer was going to be able to support now you launching in a retail store?
I don't know if this is just me, but there are manufacturers who will produce 100 units, a couple hundred units, and that's like very friendly for people who are just trying to test the market. But I think scalability from the start is really important. So even though we did talk to a bunch of different manufacturers, the one that we worked with, they end up saying, oh, we needed, I think, maybe, I don't know, like they were trying to say like, you need to do 10,000 units or 5,000. We were like, let's start off with, I think they wanted 5,000 units for full size and then 5,000 for minis. And I basically pitched them. I was like, listen, I know packaging, we're going to need to buy like 10,000 and hit the minimum, but can we ask the lab, like, let's say we fill 25 or 3,000 full size mists with them. And then they send us the bulk formula, because this is like a little bit of a story, but the amount of, especially during the pandemic, labor was very expensive. So it's not, when you think about manufacturing a product, it's not just the expense of ingredients to make the formula, but it's the cost of having someone on the line helping to fill the products and getting them into the boxes, getting them into the carton. And so when we got pricing back, they're like, here's 5,000 of each, the same product, which is a lot of money. But the pricing for a baby little sample size was the same price as a full size. And I was like, this doesn't make sense.
Doesn't
It's
make
way too
sense.
expensive. And I don't need 10,000 mists. Like I'm worried about selling the mascara in my attic from like 10 years prior. I
Right.
can't worry about 10,000 mists. So I think just like what I learned is you always got to negotiate. You always got to be creative. And what I said was, listen, I will fill the minis myself. I will buy the packaging from you. Why don't we hit that 5,000, like make enough formula to hit that 5,000 minimum, but only fill 3,000 full size, and then send me the bulk formula in a big tub and I will personally fill the minis in my
Smart.
office with my friends. And so then we can still launch with minis. We can launch with a full size and we're not paying like an extra 30 grand to fill up all these minis when we don't even know if we have the demand. That was a side story, but ultimately I do find working with manufacturers from the start where I knew they could scale and I worked with bigger companies felt like the right investment versus trying to find someone who, could please me now with these smaller quantities. But once we need, a couple thousand, I have to start all over.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that too, is negotiating and not just accepting
Yes.
what, manufacturers tell you they can do. So that's really
Yes.
smart.
Even if you feel like you're so thankful that they're working with you, you're still giving them a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you owe it to yourself to like ask and be creative because it's your money. It's a lot of
Hmm.
money. And if they see that long-term potential, you know they're gonna hopefully try to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so smart. I love that. So with the launch of Neiman's, how was that different from your initial launch of your brand? What did you do differently?
Great question. So the launch of the brand, we did that big party. I think it was like 150 people. It was a mix of editors, influencers, and then just anyone in our community. For Neiman Marcus, we were very targeted. We did 3 different events. So we did one in Dallas, we did one in Atlanta, and then we also did one at Roosevelt Field in Long Island. So we had 2 rounds. So every location, we created this beautiful, like almost tea party to like do our own little launch party, like an influencer luncheon at Neiman Marcus's restaurant. And it allowed us to showcase the products to them, introduce it, and then allow them to walk into the store to show us on the shelves. So the sales associates could get excited about these girls in store. We can get the content. It was great. But we essentially did it 2 formats. So for Dallas, which was the main one, we did an influencer event, right? And then right after, we did a customer event. So any sales associates that had VIPs who they thought would definitely buy Beia, things like that, we invited them in for some champagne or tea or whatever it was, and then learn about our product so that we can get some sales right off the bat and build our network because we're really leaning on our associates to now help us build our customer base.
Hmm.
So we did that for multiple locations. So it was very targeted, very specific. And on top of that, we also did like nice trainings with associates ahead of time with breakfast and whatnot. So they could also get excited about the brand. And so just created a lot of buzz with the right people within the store.
Yeah. I love that too, incorporating the associates and getting them, making them feel, special, but also having the opportunity to train them and educate them about your brand so that they can be those ambassadors to consumers.
Yes, because when you think about it, like I'm only one person. Yes, I'm the founder, but I can't be in the store every day. So who's going to help you do those sales and help you stick out amongst all these other brands? It's the associate. And also like they learn, like I loved chatting with them because you learn so much of like, oh, like this brand has launched this product and we can't keep it in stock or, I don't want to sell your product because I can sell $1,000 face cream and yours is much cheaper. So unless you boost my commission, I'm not interested. And you're like, okay, cool. Let's talk about your commission. And so there's so many things that I didn't know until
Yeah.
I launched. And so just having conversations with different people in the process allows you to learn, just figure it out and learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you were on shelf, was there anything that happened that you didn't expect to happen in being on retail shelves?
So in Neiman, so initially they were piloting this, sexual wellness category in Atlanta. And so they had this own little section. It was really cute. It was us and a few other brands. But very quickly the in-store team like changed it up and took it away. And we really didn't get like a ton of communication on how the pilot was going, what was going on. And so we really were a part of like their Discover Beauty or Indie Beauty category. And it was interesting because I realized there's all these different brands. Some of them have this nice, pretty on the pretty table. Some are hidden on the shelf. And I didn't know that like if you have field salespeople, like if I was in store to sell, they would prioritize where you're sitting and where you're displayed. And so it helped you make more sales. But if you don't show up and you're just sitting in it, you're going to get pushed to the back, which I thought was really funny. It's not like everyone has their own home. You got to be there to get a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good feedback. Definitely show up, right? Sample your
Yes.
product.
Yes.
So then after that, you have this launch with Neiman's. What was the next retailer you were in, and what was the strategy in regards to being able to launch in a secondary retailer?
I think the next one was Free People and then Urban. And then we honestly got like my dream retailer reach out after they saw our launch with Neiman's. And so I'm someone who likes to like really invest in partnerships and people versus trying to be everywhere
Yeah.
and kind of touch everything. Like the reality was we're a new brand. people still need to learn about us. So there's no point of just going into, I learned this honestly. We went into Neiman's. My advisor was like, listen, retail right now, unless you're in an Ulta or Sephora or Target, like you can't expect these crazy sales, but it's going to be really good to build your brand credibility. And once you can attract certain PR, you know the box has been checked. And so keeping that in mind, I did think, oh my gosh, you just get into retail and you crush it and everyone knows about you. No, it's like that's when all the work begins. We did go into preview, we did go into urban, and that was more like, let's show videos and social media. People love social media and driving them to the website or to store. I think it's important to just know that if you are launching a brand, you can't just, and this is my learning, is that even though I was told go in from a PR perspective and I wanted that, I just thought you just make so many sales just entering a retailer because all these people shop in store and they discover you. Reality is, like, when I was there, sometimes it was a handful of people who walked into the store the whole day. And if people are buying and making sales, they're texting their sales associate exactly what they want. They're not even coming in store. And if they are in store, they're pulling up their phone and being like, listen, I saw this product on TikTok or I saw this online. Do you have it? And if you don't, I'm going to go somewhere else. And so that was like probably the biggest takeaways was people are not discovering product in department stores and really relying on associates the way that they used to. And that, like, because you're in retail, it's not like this big check the box, you've now made it. Like, you really just need to be mindful of, like, it's a lot of money to like constantly be at these stores and support these stores and the associates, and they want you to do a lot of marketing once you're in. And so we have been in all these stores. We've gone into more like wellness destinations, but honestly, as this was all happening, Amazon and meanwhile, I'm on the plane like every single week, going to different stores, getting people to know about us. But at the same time, Amazon and D2C were just growing so organically. And you're like, wait a minute, I don't have to go visit. I don't have to train anyone. And these are growing beautifully. And I think there's something to be said is that like timing of retail is important. And I'm so happy we started the journey with retail because it allowed the industry and just peers to take the brand more seriously and built the credibility that we needed. But then once we had that piece, to us, even right now, it's focusing on Amazon, focusing on our direct consumer and building up our brand awareness through social channels and building out our email marketing and such to then build up this really strong community base. So when we go back into more retailers, we can drive the traffic and we're not reliant on the retailers bringing us traffic anymore.
Yeah, that's such a good point too, because I even just read recently how people are using like TikTok and of course Instagram as the place to kind of browse and like understand what's trending. And that's the
Yeah.
discovery zone for them
Yeah.
versus how it used to be, like going into retail
Right.
and seeing what new brands
They're
are
like,
out
oh, what's
there.
today? Where's the gift with
Yeah.
purchase?
Yeah.
Who's the gift with
Right.
purchase? I want to buy that. So you're like, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's fascinating to see. And I remember being on with a very successful founder and he's like, listen, we're pulling out of this big retailer. He's like, if it is not moving the needle, you need to focus on the path of least resistance. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, it sounds really cool. I love it. But if I'm growing so significantly on this other channel, and that's going to free up my time on not flying anywhere and I can focus on making TikToks or whatever
Yeah.
and focus on growth there, like, and use that travel money towards an agency, that feels right. And I'm
Yeah.
so happy we did that.
Yeah, I love that. Even Amazon, they were just saying how Amazon in the next decade is going to be one of the biggest beauty destinations.
I
So,
mean, it's the number one beauty destination in the US right now.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you think about TikTok or social media, like Amazon has that credibility and it started as this fulfillment destination. So if you already bought it at a department store, you would just go on Amazon to replenish. Now people are, yes, discovering on social media, but they might be reading the reviews on Amazon, right? And then they want to read the reviews. And then if Amazon can be there and they can get their product in under 2 days, for free,
Yeah.
that they're going to choose that option. So I am like a big fan of Amazon.
Yeah, no, that's smart. That's great. So with the retailers of Urban Outfitters and Free People, once you were in those stores, how different was that in how you were engaging and driving consumers there versus the Neiman's, which is a more, upscale retailer?
So Neiman's, we definitely had a lot more interaction with the buying team. Like I loved our buyer and her team. Like we'd go out to dinner, we'd talk through strategy, and it was a lot more of a robust launch and process. And we just got to keep tabs on progress and what they're thinking for marketing and different things like that. Some of the smaller ones you launch with a buyer, but then you don't really, if you're lucky, you get some stats and insights, but you're not getting this. We didn't get as much of this high touch experience, and that's fine. Like they'll reorder, it's easy, like you know what you're doing, and it's awesome. Like they're not, taking up all your time at the same time, but it's just different.
Yeah.
And same thing, we're in the like there's a bunch of different like wellness destinations that we also sell to, and it's the same thing. It's like they're easy, they're low touch. So there's, I think, pros and maybe cons of the differences.
Yeah. So now that you are in the retailers, you're focused on Amazon as well as your own site. What does your team look like? Is it just you? Do you have a built out team? I know you have your intern that now is full time, of course, because she helped
Yes,
start it.
Stephanie. Yes, I know, she's been with me for 5 years, like officially 2 years full time, which is amazing. So she is like the head of, like, she runs our business developments and operations. So she's the main full time. I have my assistant who helps me between Butini and Beia, just like help me stay on top of my emails and run my calendar. And then we have an amazing vendor partners, whether it's our editor or graphic designer or our bookkeeper. There's a lot of people that like work with us that are very meaningful on our team. What I found was, for example, our editor, she's super well experienced from writing from Cosmo and Women's Health and all these publications where if I were to hire her full time, I wouldn't be able to afford her. But to be able to have her as a contractor, like on a retainer or an hourly, I can have her level of expertise while being able to afford her because we're using her in a smaller capacity. And I
Yeah.
find that has been like the best investment is like getting people who have experience, like even our email marketer, like he has a ton of experience. But since we're using him on like a part-time basis, it's a lot more affordable to be able to bring really good talent to the table that in a way that you are able to work with them versus only thinking about full-time roles.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I think that's a really good takeaway. So I'm sure then that helps in you managing two different companies. And how do you do that? There's people that, of course, that are starting brands have a full-time job and they have, their evening job. But you're running two businesses. How do you manage that?
Good question. I remember wanting to start Beia, and some entrepreneurs I really look up to, they're like, you gotta like shut down, you gotta close out one chapter before you can do the other.
Yeah.
I'm like, sure. But the beauty has been that I built this company, Butini, and it's allowed me to self-fund Beia.
Mm,
And so how I think about it, it's almost like the amount of time I would be spending trying to find investors, keeping them up to date, and like, keeping them up in the speed of things is the time that I spend on Butini and maybe a little bit more. But then the rest of the time can be Beia. And so it's just a matter of like similar to like the full-time job and the side hustle is that you kind of just have to do what you need to do to get to that next step. Right.
yeah.
And I think it is exhausting and it's not like I can just clock out at 5 p.m. from one business to go to the other. Like they both have separate teams. That one's a bigger team. They're both like emotionally draining at times, but also have super exciting opportunities. And so that's where like my assistant has been super helpful of just like helping me time block and help
Mm,
me like constantly prioritize on like, all right, what's the top priority to get done today? What's going to move the needle for Beia? What's going to move the needle for Butini? And what's really beautiful is that Butini does hair and makeup services. So a lot of times events like just last week, they needed hair and makeup to get some of the panelists ready. They also wanted Beia to be gifted at this event. And so there's a lot of really fun
synergy.
collaborations that happen with both businesses.
No, I love that. How do you kind of intertwine the two
Yeah.
and utilize those same consumers? So with that, you have these two businesses, but lastly, you're also kind of creating and have your own personal brand. So really quick, I'm just curious on was that important to you and how do you leverage that with both brands?
I think as a founder, if you're willing to be forward facing and being on the camera, you are going to be your brand's best storyteller, right? And like a lot of times people buy from people. They're not necessarily buying from brands. Like think about the number of brands that you follow on Instagram versus the number of people who maybe own brands. Like you like things to be humanized. And so when you think about building a brand, people might not be like, oh, I don't want to follow another beauty brand, but maybe you follow me and then you learn about my brand and you learn about why Beia is, purple and how like all the things that we've invested in to make the perfect mist. Then you're probably a little bit more invested in being like, I need to buy this mist when she launches it because I know how much effort and time and maybe the advice that she's seeked from her audience to build the best mist.
Yeah.
That's kind of the approach there. And I do think it can be like just such an advantage. You get a free spokesperson, a free creator just creating content for you. And my whole mission for all the companies is empowering women to feel comfortable and confident in their own skin. And I think that's like such a amazing mission that I even carry personally. And I love like sharing the story. And I think the more you can bring someone on your journey, the more opportunities and doors that open and just great people that you meet. So that's definitely not the full-time job, but it is really, really fun.
Yeah. I love it. I'm like, how is she managing all this? And she has a life and she has a personal life that she's thriving in.
Also planning a wedding. I'm like, what is
Also
going
planning a
on?
wedding. I'm like, I need to do more.
No, I do not advise it. Do not advise it. But, I'm like, when you love what you do, I'm like, you kind of figure it out. My mom was always busy. So I'm like, I guess I just love to do things and not sleep too much. I do love to sleep.
So with that, what is next for Bayeux? What are your goals over the next couple of years? What's your strategy now for growing the brand?
So we're almost done, ready to launch our new re-messaging. So it's a slight rebrand that I'm so excited about. And it's been a lot of insights from our customers and just like learning about how can we truly resonate with people where Beia becomes a part of their lifestyle. And so the whole idea of lifestyle skincare that keeps you clean and confident, there's a lot of legs that come to mind when I think about the vision of the brand. Like we've had some really amazing stories of how our products have changed some of our customers' lives and like empowered them and made them feel more comfortable in these certain situations that I just want to touch a lot more people's lives through our products. And, I'm really excited for the next few years to do some really fun collaborations and just get our message and mission out there to as many people as possible. Because once you try Beia, you're hooked. So it's that getting more people, getting into some bigger retailers that we're working through and being excited about what we think will happen, but also being excited about the opportunities that I haven't even imagined quite yet to also happen.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you are so open into change and like absorbing, the information, the feedback from consumers and still even today you're focused and you have an overall vision, but that vision changes based on, where you are in the feedback. And I think that's just really smart because allowing yourself to be open just allows for so many more opportunities. And for, at the end of the day, you may be in a entirely other, position in which you initially planned.
I agree. And I think it's just about being curious. Like if my whole mission is to empower women to feel comfortable and confident in their skin, like, well, why don't I ask them? Like, I know what I feel really good about, and that's important. And I think on the flip side, if you only listen to other people and you don't validate your own vision as a founder, that's tricky. And I think sometimes I fall into that where you're like, wait. Let me not just change my business based on what this person wants or this retailer wants this year. What's true to me, then absorbing this information, insights with your own vision and creating something even bigger than what you could have ever imagined. I think that's where the magic happens. And when I look at brands that I really admire, I think that they've done a really good job at like listening to their community. And I don't know, I just feel grateful that people take the time to share their thoughts. That like, why wouldn't I take their insights and apply it to the business?
Yeah. Love that. So with that, where can our listeners follow Beia, buy and support you, as well as follow you in your journey?
So you can find us social media wise on Instagram and TikTok. It's at Beia Beauty. And then if you want to find us online, you can find us on our website, beiabeauty.com. We're also on Amazon and the retailers that we spoke about. And then myself, I'm Brittany, BRITTANY.LO on Instagram and TikTok. So shoot me a DM and I'll just say hello.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brittany. Definitely, I feel like it was a masterclass today just on kind of learning about brand building, being, thoughtful and making sure that you're kind of, like you said, having the vision, but also gaining all of the information from people that can help support and grow the brand. So I appreciate you and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. This is such a great conversation. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you.